What's up guys, and welcome to this new video here on my YouTube channel. For some reason it seems to be a thing that windsurfers, especially intermediate windsurfers, want to windsurf faster than 55 kilometers an hour / 30 knots of speed. This seems to be the magic speed barrier where the difference between cruising around and really going for some speed lays. So I thought I'd make a video about this topic. In the end it will be about making a nice slingshot, but more about that later. So the first thing that is very important are of course the basic requirements that you need in order to even go for the challenge of 30 knots. And the first and of course most important thing is that you need to be able to go absolutely safe in a straight line, hooked into the harness lines with both feet into your foot straps, and you need some sort of a feel of control on the water. If you're a complete beginner, I cannot recommend doing what I will explain in this video because you might hurt yourself. The second very basic thing that you need is some tool to measure your speed. I, for example, use the Water Speeds app on my iPhone, but if you have a different phone, you can use another app. There are plenty of apps on the market, so you do some research. The third thing is, of course, the equipment. You don't need slalom equipment, like for example the board that you see behind me, but what you need at least is some sort of free ride equipment. You can also try all these things on your wave equipment, but it will get a lot harder. And the important thing is, I'm going to show you right here, is that you have 4 foot straps in the back of your board and that they are fairly on the outside of your board. And aside from that, you can do 30 knots with pretty much any equipment that is available on the market. And the fourth thing, this is especially important if you want to do the 30 knots for the first time, is that you need not perfect conditions, but you need at least 17, 18, 20 knots of wind. So you need to be well powered up. Of course, the more power you have in your sail, the easier it gets to go fast, but also skill-wise, it gets a little bit trickier the more overpowered you are. So yeah, 20 knots of wind. And aside from that, of course, the flatter the water is that you're sailing on, the easier it gets. You straight away go a few knots or kilometers an hour faster when you go in really, really flat water. So don't worry too much about it. If you have a tiny little bit of chop, that's totally fine. So when you're watching this tutorial, you are probably stuck in between around 24 to 28 knots of maximum speed. And before we go further into the technical stuff of this tutorial, I would like you to check when your next windsurf session is happening what your board does on the water when you're accelerating, meaning when a gust hits your sail. Now, a positive thing would be that when the gust hits your sail, your equipment accelerates, and that acceleration feels quite easy, so you don't have to push and press so much against different forces in your sail because the pressure point is moving around. Your board is simply becoming more free and you're going faster and faster. And a negative indication when you're checking what your board is doing in the water when you're sailing would be that the gust hits your sail and the pressure point is moving around a little bit, and your board, instead of becoming really free and flying over the water, still is stuck, and you're just pushing and pressing against more water. So if your equipment is flying, and it does not have to be flying like the pictures that I'm showing you right now, but if it's flying a little bit and you feel like, okay, there's some good acceleration in my equipment, then you're more or less fine. And if you feel like, no, it's very far away from that, then I have some quick fixes for you before we get to the slingshot. So there are 4 very simple quick fixes to improve the acceleration of your equipment and to make your board fly more freely over the water. And regarding the tips, I also made a very dedicated tutorial for that on my YouTube channel. I will link it down in the video description. I tested all these simple steps on my own equipment and measured the speed actually. The first thing that you can do is put your mast base a little bit further to the back. That will free the nose of your board because your sail is always pushing down from the top. So the further back on your board the sail is pressing and pushing, the freer your nose gets. The second thing pretty much does the same thing. This is your boom height. If you put your boom up, the dynamics of your rig will change and you will also get more lift out of your equipment. Now the third thing is a little bit more complicated because it's, you know, finer to adjust and harder to feel if you're a beginner or intermediate windsurfer, but a lot of people put too little downhaul into their sails, and too little downhaul causes your sail to close up in the leech, and this prevents your sail from releasing air, releasing wind, and this will stop your acceleration. So if your sail feels heavy and draggy, just put a little bit more downhaul and you will feel immediately that your sail gets lighter in your hands. And the last quick fix that you can do is you can position your foot straps further to the back on your board. Especially intermediate freeride boards have a lot of different foot strap positions, and for speed sailing you usually want the position furthest to the outside and then all the way to the back depending on your body size. But the back foot strap, put it as far back as possible, and the front foot strap you put it where you feel comfortable at. Now these were the quick fixes. You know, the next time you go on the water, you just put your base a little bit further to the back, boom a little bit up, a little bit more downhaul, and you just see how it goes. And if it's better, then great. But guys, of course, it can also happen that your equipment is still not really flying over the water. And then unfortunately you have to do the not so quick fixes, and the most important not so quick fix there is the fin. This is annoying because most people have no idea what fin fits what board, what fin is good or not. And if you need help with that, you can contact us at our surf shop, the Wind Lounge. Little advertisement here. We are very happy to help you and give you advisory. Also for fin options that do not cost 300 plus euro like the crazy custom carbon fins. But in general, when it comes to speed and the rest of your equipment is okay, the fin usually is the most crucial part. And when you try the quick fix tips and your gear is still not flying, then you should take a look at your fin. In the future I will also make a video about that topic, so subscribe to this YouTube channel to not miss that one. And guys, unfortunately now I have to tell you, if you also feel like your fin is okay, then it's either you and you're simply not good enough, or your equipment actually sucks, but usually that's not the case. So guys, let's talk about the actual speed technique and your way to the 30 knots / 55 kilometers an hour. You want to follow these steps. Of course, you can also leave out the first 2 steps and go straight to the slingshot, but I would recommend to play around with it a little bit. So the first thing that you need to try is to go for your max speed on a crosswind course or slight downwind course. You know, just try and push it as far as possible, and also adjust your trim a little bit here and there if you feel like, okay, you need a little bit more downhaul, mast base to the back, to the front, whatever it is. On this crosswind course, you could aim for 24 knots. If you're only able to do 23 knots, that's also okay. Again, it depends on the conditions, but these are some rough goals that you can be going for. That's number 1. Number 2 is that you try the exact same thing but on a downwind course. So what we're doing right now is we're exercising for the actual slingshot. When you hit a gust, you go downwind straight away. You sail as far downwind as possible. You know, you don't need to go all the way, but you simply see how it goes and you try to get a feeling for the speed, because if you do that and you hit the gust right and your trim is somewhat okay, you will go for 27, 28 knots of speed. Now on your freeride equipment, of course, if it's choppy, maybe a little bit slower. If it's super flat, maybe you are already at 30 knots. But guys, this is what you're trying. And one tip, the further you go downwind, the further to the back you can also put your mast base, because when you're going downwind, you actually lose a little bit of power in your sail. You will feel that. You can also loosen your outhaul a little bit. But in any case, in the end, you have to do, or you can do, a slingshot to get to your actual max speed. And the slingshot is the combination of the first 2 things that I just told you. And a slingshot basically describes a maneuver somewhat like this. So you're sailing in that direction and you're going downwind. And this going downwind thing, this is the actual slingshot, and this is also where you do your max speed. And I learned this from Niels Bach, Shout outs to him. This is a general misconception that a lot of people have. They think that you go downwind and this is where you get your max speed. No, when you do it right, you get your max speed at the moment or at the pinnacle of the course change that you're doing, because this is where you're accelerating the most, basically like a slingshot. So what do? You wait for a strong gust, you go as fast as possible, you really go until you're overpowered. And now you do something that is very uncomfortable. Instead of bearing away and going downwind like this, what most people do, including myself, when I'm a little bit scared on the water, what you do is you're sailing overpowered, the gust hits you, you're accelerating, and now you slowly bear away. And you do this as slow as possible in the gust. And this will make you accelerate a lot. But it is also not the easiest thing to do, because when you're heading downwind, when you have that transition phase, of course your sail is loading up and you're going faster and faster. And this is something that you have to control. And especially when it's choppy, that's not so easy. And the good thing is, once you're on that downwind course, it again gets a lot easier. But this transition, the slingshot, this is where you do the max speed. So if you before did like 27, 28 knots on the steep downwind course, you will most likely do the 30 knots in your slingshot. If that's not possible for you, then maybe the water simply was not flat enough, or the trim was still not right, or it's your skill. And with all these things being said, guys, if you enjoyed this video, you can leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to this YouTube channel to not miss any of the future videos that I will be uploading. As I said, the other tutorial is linked down in the video description. And guys, if you need a new fin or anything else that is windsurf related, check out our online windsurf shop, The Wind Lounge. We are always very, very happy to help you guys. So see you the next time. Bye-bye.